Hello, race fans, and welcome to another edition of Before the Green Flag on GMSRacing.net. As always, I'm Justin Waffen, joined by Joey Coulter and Josh Weinrich. And guys, this week we return to Michigan International Speedway with Spencer Gallagher and Austin Dillon. And, for these guys, it's the second time that Austin's going to be in the truck with us for the season. So, kind of heading into the race, what do you guys see as the big challenges heading for GMS?
Michigan's always a little bit of a challenge because it's so fast. The track still has a ton of grip, through a lot of practice, all of qualifying, and probably a good part of the race. Drivers won't ever have to lift. They'll be wide open, almost drafting in a somewhat super speedway kind of style, which is wild for not a super speedway.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun to do, but it's stressful if you're a crew chief because pit strategy changes all the time. Last year, I think we only had one caution, and it completely mixed up the entire race. And then, for the drivers, just being able to balance your truck out to get all the drag off of it you can and really go fast to put up a good lap. But at the same time, it's got to drive good in traffic because you got to be able to make passes, especially on restarts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Michigan's it's a super speedway that's not a super speedway. It's after the repave, it's kind of the Talladega Daytona kind of wannabe. I always think of a bunch of green flag runs. I think of fuel, and I think of track position, especially since this repave about 3 years ago. Like Joey said last year, there was one caution. That caution came in like the first 10, 15 laps, something like that, and fuel was a top priority. So um, it's kind of like a hybrid race. It's like the first 10 laps after restart, everyone's right on top of each other. They're 3, 4 wide down the straightaway. They're bump drafting. They're doing all this, and it's a big momentum racetrack with our trucks because we are so slow, and the draft plays such a huge role. So, um, same thing. I kind of look at like Pocono. They're both repaved and everything. We had a lot of green flag running at Pocono the other week. Had a lot of green flag runs at Michigan last year. So pit strategy is going to be huge, and track position is as well.
And for all those things that are going to go into getting for the crew chiefs, all the things they need to digest, we kind of talked with Mike Beam to get his thoughts of, for the competition director, what do you need to take into account to find success this weekend?
Well, I think that like at Michigan, it's all about speed there. It is a little bit of mixture, but the driver's really got to be on his game, pay attention to the draft and get on pit road. I've been fortunate enough to win there a couple times as crew chief, and, it's the drivers, they're always on their game. So, you got to really set your vehicle up for the last run. It's usually a fuel mileage deal also. So you got to be smart about how you race it. And I think Spencer and Austin, they're going to do really well. We got some good trucks going, and so I'm excited to go there and try to win.
Mike Beam giving his thoughts of breaking down all the action heading into this weekend. And guys, now Austin Dillon is going to be with us, like I said before, for the second race with us this season. So what do you guys see for his performance this weekend?
I mean, Pocono went really well for him. I know everybody was a little bit disappointed with the finish just because the truck had so much speed and those wild and crazy restarts just didn't land in our favor. But I like the way that these races with both Austin and Ty have been set up to where they're all kind of one right after another to keep the momentum rolling. And Austin coming right back in the truck at Michigan after Pocono is a really good thing. I think it helps the program. It definitely gives Austin a better chance, I think, at getting into victory lane. And then him working with Spencer for the second week in a row at a similar type of racetrack where there's just a ton of throttle, drafting's huge, restarts are crazy. I think that's all going to play into both drivers' favor really well.
Yeah, and Spencer's. This is one of those racetracks where Spencer actually ran last year. Same thing at Pocono last week. So had a pretty good top 15 finish last year. When he was running that part-time schedule. So coming back here, not only does he have the one truck start under his belt, but he's got 3 ARC starts under his belt too, and it's all post repave. So that's really good experience. And those guys, they've shown a lot of really good speed at these high grip, high speed. Big time throttle racetracks like Kansas and Pocono and things like that. So, he finished top 5 there. He finished 5th in his last ARC start there. So, you guys had some speed last year as well. So, it's just laps on a racetrack, man. I mean, when you got Kyle Busch coming in and you got Austin coming in and you got these guys with tons of tons of laps, tons of experience coming into these races. That's a huge disadvantage for these young guys. So to be able to come to a racetrack in your rookie season where you do have some race experience, that's a huge help.
Yeah,
definitely.
And we were able to catch up with Spencer and kind of get his thoughts of what it's like returning to the racetrack that he's been at and got a top 5 at. And this was his comment.
Surprisingly enough, of all the racetracks that got repaved in 12, it seems like Michigan has actually aged the least. It's weird. In 2012, of course, it was just flat silly, and it fell off some the year after that. But since then, it really hasn't taken any bumps. It's still extremely grippy, extremely fast. I mean, in these trucks, we're probably going to be flat-footed for the better part of a fuel run. It's really interesting to see how it kind of subverts expectations like that. You really figure with the harsh winters they get out there, it would start getting bumpy and losing grip quickly, but it's honestly remained really fast. It's funny, it definitely shares some characteristics of a plate race when you're at a track that big in these trucks. The draft is so strong out there. It's stronger than anywhere else we run, even Pocono, because you're constantly carrying so much corner speed that when you get up behind somebody in the straightaways, it's like you picked up an extra 70 horsepower out of nowhere. So it's definitely got characteristics of a plate race, but you still drive it more like a mile and a half than anything.
In addition to the upcoming Michigan race, also going to backtrack a little bit to our very own Grant Enfinger with the dominating performance at Berlin Speedway. And guys, what is your big takeaway from that race?
I mean, it was it was almost what I expected. I mean, I got to go out to Berlin with those guys last year, and that was a pretty dominating performance. But this one definitely took the cake. It was awesome. I mean, amazing points day. I mean, that's what he needed after, again, we talk about over and over again how good these guys have been able to recover. That's how you recover.
That's how you do it.
It was great. I mean, awesome. I think he led all but 2 laps.
Yeah.
So every lap pretty much got the pole and all that. So that was awesome run for those guys.
Yeah, every time you've heard people say they're racing for second, well, that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, after posting, winning the first practice, setting fast time in the second practice, qualifying on the pole, you kind of had a feeling that something like that was coming.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I think he got beat to the line on restarts twice during that race, so there wasn't really a whole lot of challenge. It's really good for the fans and everyone else showing up there that they restart them double file, because that was the only way anyone was going to get up to them. So that was really cool to see. And I mean, that's that race team's potential. That's Grant's potential.
Yeah.
I mean, when things go, when they control everything they control like they usually do, and circumstances fall their way, that's what happens.
And they never lose focus. I mean, they knew going into that race. They probably knew going into the weekend they were going to have a really, really good shot at winning this race.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody got complacent. Nobody got relaxed. They went and did their thing and brought the trophy back.
And one last thing about these final few races coming up, we're going back to these racetracks now where Grant has actually run with GMS before. So if he wasn't good enough at the beginning of the year, going back to these racetracks a second time with all those guys,
Watch out.
watch out.
Yeah. And the next action for the ARCA team is actually going to be the 23rd of August at the Illinois State Fairgrounds.
More dirt.
There you go, in your wheelhouse. And also for the trucks, once again, this upcoming Saturday, the Career for Veterans 200, also on Fox Sports 1. And for all the action you want to keep up track with, be on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at GMS Racing LLC.
And Snapchat.
Hey, on Snapchat. Be sure to check us out there. And for all the post-race, pre-race, and everything in between, be sure to check out gmsracing.net. And for everyone here before the green flag, thanks for watching this episode, and we'll see you next week.